100 miles off the north coast of Australia is the territory of Papua New Guinea. In the western highlands of Papua New Guinea there are many tribes. One of them is the Ongkas. The most prominent leader, or big man, of the Ongkas tribe is Ongkas. For 5 years, the Ongkas tribe, driven on by Ongkas, have been struggling to assemble a huge gift, mainly of pigs, to present to a neighbouring tribe. For Ongkas, assembling and giving this gift is more important than anything in his life. This film is about why Ongkas so wanted to do it, and about his efforts to bring it off. The big man of the tribe who are going to receive the gift is Perewa, who is also the local member of the National Assembly. One day, this July, Perewa set off on his way back home to the highlands. Perewa knew pretty well what the Ongkas were trying to prepare. 500 or 600 pigs, rare birds, money, tubes of decorating oil, a truck, and maybe a motorbike. All his life, Perewa, like all highland men, has been involved in the system of receiving gifts and later repaying them. These gifts are called Moka, and Moka is the most important thing in the lives of the highland people. When he got home this summer, Perewa thought that Ongkas Moka was going to be very soon, but that's not how it turned out, and Perewa just had to wait till Ongkas was ready. Early this summer, after years of scheming and manipulating, planning and persuading, Ongkas began to feel that he might finally be able to bring off his big moka, and that it could be the biggest moka ever given. The reason why Ongkas so wanted to give his big moka is that only by giving can he earn fame and status for his tribe and for himself. In the West, you can get status lots of ways, from money, from success, from your job, your possessions. The only way Ongkas can get status is to outdo his fellow men in Moka, to overwhelm them publicly by the sheer size of the gift that he gives. It's an awful lot of work to organize a big gift, and Ongkas needed the cooperation of a lot of people. Big men have no authority over their tribesmen. Ongkas cannot order people around. He can only persuade. Ongkas gave them a favourite speech in which he told them to stop fiddling about in their gardens, to stop drinking beer and wasting time with women, and to get on with it.
Early concrete one to have maybe we common quantity of Opoy about a painted. Made him good on him out and no one Yamini come with him, bond down the Belep.
What you are supposed to be doing, he said, is getting pigs ready for the Moka, not sitting around eating them. The Kaolka are a small tribe, about 1,000 people. All around are other tribes, some allies, some enemies. There are no villages, just scattered settlements, around which Ongkas plodded, bringing news, checking on progress, and trying to set a date for the big Moka. The date is always a problem. Big men compete for the status of fixing the date, and a lot of conspiring goes on. Ongkas lives in his men's house, 5 minutes away from the house of his favourite wife, Rumbakul. Ongkas has 4 wives and 9 children, but he talks rather wearily about trying to manage more than one wife, and only Rumbakul now looks after pigs for him. Ongkas talked endlessly about pigs. He said that pigs are the only worthwhile thing, that if money looks after white people, pigs look after them. You have to have pigs for whatever you want to do.
Pun Monga Rovelina continue one bone of me, Kunjim Morum, didn't matter waiting Tabin out of Kundu Morum, Morinjim Morum, Tinam, Pompra Wamp in the Bambugam Gan Peprum, Kunjim Tam Wampon, Ampitim, Mukoitman, Nabu Gajimini, Kunjim Member Bam Kum, don't wait to Am Bonim. One I wait to Able Casual Corbett, Morum Ganted, I can put Murum Gaga. Won't wait to Roba, won't Babu Bajim, won't Able Nim, Belgian put in Pama Band of Kunga Rondo Bajim. Email, Malay, email, email, getting him. Yeah, much, but I'm up and I will go to get him in the Kunjim, Pampa, Kunjin, Aragubam, Munga, they don't count for any more now. Melman by the kind of people, no political. I am a pigeon, I'm rolling for one of any more burping. As you mail, but my band of an item, no way, let him.
Pigs can be used in lots of ways, but there's a rare bird captured in the forest that is used only as a Moka gift, much as the Chinese are apt to give pandas to visiting dignitaries. It's called a cassowary, and Ongkas hoped to give 5. Rumbakul lives with her daughters in her women's house. The pigs live there too, separated off by a fence. The basic food of both pigs and people is sweet potatoes. Pigs are a lot of work. Hard at it, Rumbuckle can look after 8 full-grown pigs, maybe 10 for a while. Sometimes Ongkas went back to his men's house. Sometimes he ate with Rumbuckle and the children. You can survive all right without pigs. Your food, the materials for your house, the traditional clothes, all come from the gardens and forest, and you only eat pig on special occasions. But if you want to get on in life or even marry, then you've got to have pigs. Because it's not possible to look after more than a few pigs, you cannot accumulate, you can't hoard them. What you can do is to assemble a lot of pigs and give them away in a big public show. And it's by giving that you impress other people. In his big Moka, Ongkas himself wanted to give about 100 pigs. To have that many on the day, there is a system of investment. Over the last 4 years, Ongkas had invested pigs with other people, mostly with Rumbuckle's father. The next day, Rumbuckle's father was going to show them the pigs he owed, and Ongkas sorted through his feathers and skins to see what he was going to wear for the occasion. The next day, Ongkas' father-in-law and Damba had some pigs staked out for him to see, returns on the investment Ongkas had made with him. If Ongkas was satisfied, these pigs would be given to him later at a small Moka which would feed into Ongkas' big one. It was not as many as Ongkas had hoped, but it was a start. Pigs have always been important. Ongkas' father-in-law told us about the olden days. Although Ongkas had now been promised pigs by his father-in-law and by other men that he'd invested with, the small Moka ceremonies at which he would actually receive the pigs still had to happen, and Ongkas started to dress up for the first of these. Before the Australians pacified the area in the 1940s, Ongkas too fought against his enemy tribes and sometimes against his allies. Big men planned the fighting and the peace and the pig givings that followed. Big men have always been especially vulnerable. Ongkas has many stories about attacks upon himself, including one about how one night he was about to visit his lavatory hut. As he walked towards it, he sensed his enemies lying in wait. Ongkas hid in a nearby bush and watched while his enemies crept up and drove their spears through the walls, thinking they'd got him inside. Ongkas, dressed in his feathers, set off for the first small Moka that would feed pigs into the system. While the pigs are tied up in the shade, the donors put on their bird of paradise feathers and dance to celebrate their achievement. Who gets what is all worked out beforehand, but the pigs are inspected and counted again, usually by Ongkas. The donors walk down the line of stakes, shouting out the name of the man who will receive the pig that will be tied to it. The correct pig is then brought on and tied to its allotted stake. Disputes about who gets what should, at least in theory, have been worked out before. Language of their own. Speech making is Ongkas' great skill. At one stage in his speech, Ongkas said, "The men's house had fallen down, the young girl's breasts had fallen, the young man's beard grew long. But now that you've given these pigs, I shall marry the young girl, find a wife for the young man, and I shall build the men's house again." Ongkas got one pig and his fellow tribesmen got the rest, all to be fed into the big Moka. Ongkas has a surprising quantity of money, 1,800 Australian dollars, sitting in the Mount Hagen Savings Bank at 3.75% interest. But, highly conscious of the value of money, he refused to pay to put his pig on a truck and walked it the 12 miles home. It wasn't only that Ongkas wanted to give his big Moka, he had to. Moka gifts are given and, some years later, they should be repaid with interest. Technically, Moka is the interest, the extra, that you manage to give back over and above the gift you received. 10 years ago, Ongkas' tribe were given 400 pigs by their neighbours, and to answer that, Ongkas wanted to give at least 600.
나는 매듭 양도 이제 가기니 뭐가 오백이니 매제 거기냐 기진들 거 배가 인들 기진들 이제 분으로 배제 나는 뭐 먹고 배나자 아마 이긴 보고 보건 아마 tumpureram payment ne pandakam pengon puje ka mel mal tinem ko mundu mo ka menti le nem ko king ba ka ba cha ba ba ku yim ro kla ba ko ba mura ko bo ormul ba bo na man te mundu ko ye ku na ba je bora ne ba da ma nin ti ki bo ma bi na ba ne ka na ma je ban menti ma mo ba pengon ba na ba no ba mel mal te ba ye ne me ka ne pele ba.
To organise 600 pigs, Ongkas had to do two things. He had to gather in his own investments and push his tribesmen into gathering in theirs. With no authority over them, he can only push, and if he pushes too hard, they won't cooperate anymore. There was one place where he had constant problems. He told them to stop looking for lice in their wives' aprons and get a move on. Three weeks later, another of the small Mokas took place and fed in 55 more pigs for the big Moka. Ongkas supervised the dancers to make sure they would perform well when the big Moka came.
3
this small Moka, there was money as well as pigs. Money, Australian dollars, comes almost entirely from coffee, which they grow and sell to the coffee companies in Mount Hagen. Until 10 years ago, pearl shells were used in Moka, but now shells have been replaced by paper dollars, and a big pig is now worth about $250, but £140. This time, there was a ritual war charge in which extra pigs were brought on as a surprise to get extra prestige. Within every tribe, big men compete with each other. Ongkas has one particular rival trying to oust him, Reimer. Reimer has few of Ongkas' abilities, but he always told us that he, not Ongkas, would be the one to fix the date of the big Moka. In his speech, Ongkas said that they all knew the story of the lady who made a lot of noise in her sweet potato garden until a man came along and gave her what she wanted, and then she was happy and quiet. And now that I've got what I want, he said, I too am very happy, and like that lady, I will sit in my corner and not say any more. Thank you very much. I'm very happy.
Yeah. Yeah, na do ma de jimbe na ba ma do ko pe e jimbe ni di ko ku de ka bele ko mo ka de mo ta ka de o ko me te ko de na ne che na de me ka na ba de ba ni di ko ko na ji ma ka che ji mo na ku ta ka che ri mo na o na ba ma ma te ka le ko na ya we ko ro pa mo ka jimbe de ba che na je pa me le ba jimbe de mo ka jimbe ko na ba ka jimbe de ba dai ko ro pa jim ka ro won ji en jim ma no no ka na ni de na mu de Gadget people will be in Adi, what the Pomatum wrong to Mokum, magic and move, Ralval Mogat. I might call it Manaka, wait, and I did them when John got taking the bed one when I'm betting at bottom running, knocking people. People landed, people will be more with that. Never way up 110, I did again. Can't do one, I owned the baby, no time running, but me till mammal can tag under them.
As the pigs began to appear, Ongkas said that they were like a snake half hidden in the grass. He could see its head, but he couldn't tell how long its body was. Ongkas went off to the Jimmy Valley 2 days' walk away to get new feathers for his headdress and to chase up a 40-pig investment. While he was away, something happened to jeopardize all he had been working for. In Ongkas' enemy tribe, a big man died suddenly. If a man, especially a big man, dies suddenly, it's always thought he was killed by sorcery, and the men charge in anger against the enemy who must have performed the sorcery. In their song, the women sang, "O my father, whom shall I turn to now?" In their song, the men sang, "O my brother, whom shall I live with now?" As the day wore on, visitors brought news of Kalka men of Ongkas' group who had been heard singing, drunk, in a truck. People said it must be our Kalka enemies who killed our big man by sorcery, that they were singing because they were pleased, and there began to be talk of going down to burn Kalka houses. When Ongka got home with his feathers, he heard that his group were being accused of the sorcery. At once, he sent a pig down to the funeral with a message to say it wasn't true, and a special branch used in oath-taking to emphasize the truth of what he was saying. He wanted to go down to the funeral himself to tell them that it wasn't true, but he didn't dare go. Some of his relatives, married into the dead man's tribe, came and took his branch and his pig down, along with a pig of their own. Ongka's pig was accepted and cooked, along with others, at a distribution of pork to mark the end of the first period of mourning. but it only smoothed over the accusation. It didn't get rid of the suspicion. This sort of payment can become the basis of a Moka, and the Moka sequence in which Ongkas is involved began in this sort of way, as a payment of pigs for deaths in tribal fighting. Later, more pigs were returned, and the to and fro exchanges of a Moka began. The funeral held everything up. For 3 weeks, until the mourning was over, the Kaulka were uneasy. There were no Mokas in case they antagonized the dead man's tribe. Eventually, the next small Moka did happen, and Ongkas was given the pigs promised by his father-in-law. But they didn't decorate or dance out of respect for the dead man. Ongkas did rather better than he expected. 80 pigs were given, and Ongkas got half of them. Ongkas was very happy, but more pigs meant more work, and the pressure was really on him, and even more on Rumbakul, to hand the pigs on. Rumbakul had no sweet potatoes left. They had to find them wherever they could. At night, with no more room for pigs inside, someone had to sleep out with them. Ongkas even found an extra wife, a widow whose greatest attraction was her capacity for work. Before the big Moka could happen, there were still 3 small Mokas to go. Each one meant more pigs and mounting pressure to pass them on. As the big Moka got closer, the pressure on Rumbakul got worse.
Ongkas nga coba kangen mat ngurmen ko. Mba kerana mat ngurmen ko. Yeling ini kan bocah mebian dong bakan nang ngurmen. Mungkin aja drop malu punya bocah buku ambil orang dalam nampak jemputnya bukannya kungundu bocah drop. Kerana undu bocah drop aja. Aja drop mulu namun dalam bahan buku ambil bocah kan narok ikut. Ni mam korban kan jawana mengambil orang main pemebam penamur.
The last few pigs were coming in. Ongkas began to talk about going down to buy cows as an extra surprise. The big Moka was very close. Moka isn't just about pigs, it's about all kinds of things. The Ongkas say that it keeps the peace. As a way of making a name for yourself, it holds the tribe together. It's the big social event. On a more general level, Moka is a system, a framework. All over the world, people operate within some kind of framework, and Moka is one of them. There was one more thing to do before the big Moka could happen the next day. The money they had collected to give to Peroa and his tribe had to be spread out and counted. They got 10,000 Australian dollars, about £5,500. Each bundle is $200 and is destined for a particular group.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2,000. 1, 2, 3.
Peroa, the member of the assembly, often says it's time they gave up Moka, but he sat watching the piles of money mounting up. When we asked Ongkas what he'd do if Peroa didn't one day return the Moka, Ongkas said he'd take him behind a bush and slit his throat. But even if he did lose his investment, he could never lose the glory of having given it. Then it happened. Suddenly, Ongkas' rival, Reimer, did what he always said he'd do and upset the timing of the Moka. Reimer put a whisper through the crowd that it was his group who had killed the big man by sorcery. It's not the kind of thing you admit to in public, but it had the effect he wanted. It broke up in confusion, with people angry at Reimer for stirring up old troubles. That night, Ongkas was still saying the big Moka would happen the next day. In fact, things turned out much worse than Ongkas had expected. Early next morning, the group of Kulka married into the dead man's tribe came down in a war charge to get Rima. On their way, they came past Ongkas. To try and stop them, Ongkas sat down in the road.
다간지 보고는 많은 배를 모래 가니. 우리 국가등에 가면 나 매주 우리 대주면 나 닌지 가니면. 매주 모병에 가면 나 매주 대주면 나 닌지 가니면. 보고는 만능에 가면 나 매주 우리 대주면 나 닌지 가니면. 엄마 마가 우리 니고 문도는 거 문도를 보자 그럼 뭐 남은 데 그 마가 문도를 가니면. 그럼 그거 나나 배 대주면 내가 그 집에 닌지 가니면.
Ongka told them that they must stop this talk of fighting, that when the Europeans first came, they had put ideas of fighting down the lavatory hole, and that's where they should stay. He told them it was just a hitch, that they would finish the big Moka together. Ongka, with no power to stop them, did his best to persuade them. Some listened, some set off for Rimas. The next day, there was no big Moka. Rima went into hiding. A few nights later, they killed 4 of his pigs. Perawa had been waiting 3 months, but now he had to go back to the assembly to discuss the new constitution for the independence of Papua New Guinea. Perawa was getting used to delays. The big Moka had originally been planned for a year ago, and Ongka and his group had got as far as buying a truck as part of their gift. Perawa said there was no point in the truck rotting away until the big Moka did happen, and that he might as well use it in the meantime. Sometime after we too had left, Ongka's big Moka finally did happen. There were 600 pigs, $10,000, 8 cows, and 12 cassories. They washed the truck and decorated it with flowers, and there was a motorbike. At the end of his Moka speech, Ongka said, "Now that I have given you all these things, I have won. I have knocked you down by giving so much."
Bye.